The bullet missed Lena Thompson by inches, splintering the wooden post beside her head, and she realized with cold clarity that her father had finally decided she was worth more dead than alive. She ran through the dusty streets of Julian, California, her worn boots kicking up clouds of golden dust in the late afternoon sun of 1878. The mining town buzzed with activity, prospectors and merchants going about their business, completely unaware that the banker's daughter was running for her life. Lena's lungs burned as she ducked between buildings, her heart hammering against her ribs. She could hear her father's voice behind her, smooth as honey and twice as poisonous, calling out to the hired gun he had brought with him. "She is hysterical," Marcus Thompson announced to anyone within earshot. "My poor daughter has taken ill. Please, if anyone sees her, bring her home safely." Lena pressed herself against the back wall of the general store, chest heaving. Of course he would paint her as mad. He had been doing it for years, ever since her mother died and left her alone with a man who saw his only child as nothing more than a disappointing investment. Too plain, he said. Too outspoken. Too unmarriageable. Not enough to save his failing bank or his tarnished reputation. "You will never be enough," he had told her just that morning, his cold eyes assessing her like livestock at auction. "But your death might give me the sympathy I need to rebuild what I have lost." A grieving father garners more trust than a desperate banker. She had not wanted to believe him capable of such cruelty. Then she saw him hand the money to the gunman, heard him describe exactly how her tragic accident should look, and she ran. Now she stood in the shadows, watching the sun sink lower toward the horizon, knowing she could not hide in Julian forever. The town was too small, too tightly wound around her father's influence. She needed to leave, needed to disappear into the vast California wilderness before darkness fell and made her an even easier target. Lena gathered her skirts and moved carefully between buildings, making her way toward the livery stable at the edge of town. If she could take a horse, any horse, she might make it to one of the other mining camps scattered through the Cuyamaca Mountains. She had a little money tucked in her boot, enough for a few days if she was careful. The stable was blessedly quiet when she slipped inside. The smell of hay and horses filled her nose, oddly comforting in its normalcy. She moved toward the nearest stall, reaching for the bridle hanging on the wall when a voice stopped her cold. "That is stealing, miss." Lena spun around, her hand flying to her throat. A man stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the dying light. He was tall and lean, with broad shoulders that spoke of hard work rather than vanity. As he stepped forward, she could make out more details: dark hair that curled slightly at his collar, sun-bronzed skin, and eyes the color of whiskey that regarded her with curiosity rather than threat. "I can pay," Lena said quickly, though her voice shook. "I need a horse." "Please, I will pay whatever you ask." The man studied her for a long moment, taking in her disheveled appearance, the fear written plainly across her face. "You running from something or toward something? Does it matter?" "Might do." He moved closer, his movements unhurried and deliberate. "Name is Aaron Quinn. I work the ranch about 5 miles north of here, came into town for supplies." He gestured to a wagon outside loaded with goods. "And you would be Miss Thompson unless I miss my guess. Seen you in town before." Lena's hope withered. If he knew who she was, he would return her to her father. Everyone in Julian knew Marcus Thompson, respected him, trusted him with their savings and their secrets. "Please," she whispered, hating the desperation in her voice but unable to contain it. "Please, just let me take a horse. Tell them you did not see me. Tell them anything." Aaron Quinn crossed his arms, leaning against a support beam. "Why would the banker's daughter need to steal a horse? Your father has money enough to buy you a dozen. My father wants me dead." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. He hired someone to kill me. I heard him. I saw the money exchange hands. So yes, I am stealing a horse, and yes, I know it is wrong, but I would rather be a thief than a corpse. She expected disbelief. Instead, Aaron's expression darkened, something dangerous flashing in those whiskey-colored eyes. "Marcus Thompson," he said slowly, and there was something in the way he said the name that made Lena pause. "That snake finally showed his true colors, did he? You believe me? Believe you?" Aaron let out a harsh laugh. "Miss, your father has been cheating people out of their land and savings for years. He tried to take my family's ranch last year, claimed we defaulted on a loan we never took. Lucky for us, my father kept better records than Thompson expected." He straightened, making a decision. "You cannot take a horse from here. Everyone will know it came from Julian's stable, but you can come with me." Lena's breath caught. "What? My ranch? It is not much, but it is far enough from town that your father would not think to look there first. You can stay until we figure out what to do." He must have seen the hesitation on her face because he held up his hands. "I have a housekeeper, Mrs. Chen. She lives on the property with her husband. It would all be proper if that is what you are worried about. Why would you help me? You do not even know me." Aaron Quinn met her eyes steadily. "Because I know your father, and that is enough. Besides," he added, a hint of something softer entering his voice, "nobody deserves to run for their life in a town that should protect them." Lena wanted to cry. She wanted to collapse right there in the stable and let all the fear and exhaustion pour out of her. Instead, she squared her shoulders and nodded. "Thank you. I will work. I can cook and clean and tend animals. I will earn my keep. We can discuss that later. Right now, we need to get you out of town before dark." Aaron moved to the wagon and gestured for her to climb in the back. "Get under the canvas. It will not be comfortable, but it will keep you hidden until we are clear of Julian." Lena did as instructed, crawling into the wagon bed and letting Aaron cover her with the heavy tarp. The world went dark and close, the smell of canvas and wood filling her nose. She felt the wagon shift as Aaron climbed into the driver's seat, heard the snap of reins and the creak of wheels beginning to turn. As they rolled through town, Lena held her breath, certain that at any moment someone would stop them, pull back the canvas, and drag her back to her father. But the wagon kept moving, and gradually the sounds of Julian faded behind them, replaced by the chirp of crickets and the rustle of wind through mountain grass. After what felt like an eternity, Aaron's voice came from above. "You can come out now. We are clear." Lena pushed the canvas aside and sat up, gulping in the cool evening air. The sky had turned deep purple, stars beginning to emerge like diamonds scattered across velvet. The road behind them was empty, Julian just a cluster of lights in the distance. "Thank you," she said again, because there were no other words adequate for what this stranger had done for her. Aaron glanced back at her, his profile sharp against the darkening sky. "Thank me when you are safe. For now, just hold on. The road gets rough ahead." The Quinn Ranch appeared like a sanctuary in the darkness. A modest house with warm light glowing from its windows, surrounded by corrals and outbuildings that spoke of hard work and honest living. As Aaron pulled the wagon to a stop, the front door opened and a woman emerged, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, her face creased with the kind of wrinkles that came from years of smiling. "Aaron, you are late," she called out in accented English. "I was beginning to worry." "Sorry, Mrs. Chen, I brought a guest." Aaron hopped down from the wagon and moved to help Lena. His hands were rough and calloused, but his grip was gentle as he steadied her on the ground. "Miss Thompson needs a place to stay. She is in some trouble, Mrs. Chen's sharp eyes took in Lena's appearance, missing nothing. "Come inside. You look half-starved and completely exhausted. We will talk after you eat." Lena wanted to protest that she was not hungry, but her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. She had not eaten since breakfast, and even that had been just a piece of bread. Her father's words about her being too heavy for a proper lady robbing her of any appetite. The inside of the house was simple but clean, with handmade furniture and colorful quilts that added warmth to the space. Mrs. Chen bustled about the kitchen while Aaron disappeared to tend to the horses, and Lena stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, unsure of what to do with herself. "Sit," Mrs. Chen ordered, pointing to a chair at the wooden table. "You are safe here. Aaron is a good man like his father was. If he brought you here, there is good reason." Lena sat, her hands folded in her lap. "I do not want to bring trouble to your door. Trouble follows those who live honest lives in dishonest times." Mrs. Chen set a bowl of stew in front of her, still steaming from the pot. "Eat now, talk later." The stew was simple beef and vegetables in a rich broth, but it tasted like heaven. Lena ate slowly, savoring each bite, feeling strength seep back into her limbs. By the time Aaron returned, she had finished the entire bowl and was starting to feel almost human again. Aaron had washed up, his hair damp and curling more noticeably now. He grabbed his own bowl of stew and sat across from Lena, his long legs stretched out under the table. "Mrs. Chen, could you prepare the spare room for Miss Thompson?" "Already done." The older woman wiped her hands on her apron. "I will let you two talk. Miss Thompson, if you need anything, my house is just beyond the barn. Do not hesitate to call." After Mrs. Chen left, silence fell over the kitchen. Lena studied the grain of the wooden table, exhaustion and emotion making her eyes burn. "Tell me everything," Aaron said quietly. "From the beginning." So she did. She told him about her mother's death 5 years ago, about how her father had changed after losing his wife, becoming harder and colder. She told him about the business deals gone wrong, the whispers of impropriety that had started to follow Marcus Thompson's name. She told him about the parade of suitors her father had presented, each one more repulsive than the last, and how none of them wanted her for anything other than her father's money and connections. "He told me this morning that I was worthless," Lena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That I had failed at the one thing women were supposed to do, be valuable enough to marry well. He said I was too plain, too willful, too much of everything wrong and not enough of anything right." Aaron's jaw tightened, anger flashing across his features. "And then I heard him talking to a man in his study. He gave him money and described how my death should look a tragic accident, perhaps a fall from a horse or a drowning in the creek. Something that would garner sympathy." Lena's hands trembled as she wrapped them around her empty bowl. "I did not want to believe it. He is my father, but I saw the look in his eyes and I knew he meant it, so I ran." Did anyone else hear this conversation? I do not know. I was listening at the door. The moment I understood what they were planning, I ran. Lena looked up at Aaron, seeing something in his expression she could not quite name. "I know how it sounds. A hysterical woman accusing her respected father of attempted murder. No one would believe me. I believe you." Those 3 words nearly undid her. Lena felt tears spill down her cheeks before she could stop them, and she buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She heard Aaron's chair scrape against the floor, felt his presence beside her, and then a gentle hand rested on her shoulder. "You are safe here," he said, his voice low and steady. "I give you my word, no one will hurt you while you are under my roof." Lena wiped at her tears, embarrassed by the display. "I cannot stay here forever. Eventually he will find me. He has connections, money, influence. He will make it impossible for you to keep me hidden. Then we will figure out a different solution." Aaron moved back to his chair, giving her space. "But tonight you sleep. Tomorrow we plan. The spare room was small but comfortable, with a real bed covered in one of those colorful quilts and a window that looked out over the dark mountains. Lena changed into a nightgown that Mrs. Chen had left for her, too big but clean and soft, and crawled under the covers. She expected to lie awake all night, jumping at every sound, but exhaustion claimed her almost immediately, pulling her down into deep, dreamless sleep. Morning came with the sound of roosters and the smell of coffee. Lena woke slowly, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings, then remembered everything in a rush. She dressed quickly in her clothes from yesterday, wishing she had thought to grab some belongings before fleeing, and made her way to the kitchen. Aaron sat at the table with an older Chinese man who had to be Mr. Chen. Both of them bent over a piece of paper covered in notes. They looked up as she entered, and Aaron immediately stood, pulling out a chair for her. "Miss Thompson, this is Mr. Chen. He helps run the ranch." Mr. Chen nodded respectfully. "Miss, you are looking better this morning." "Thank you." Lena sat, accepting the cup of coffee Aaron poured for her. "I apologize for the trouble I have brought to your home." "You brought nothing but what was already there," Mr. Chen said. "Marcus Thompson has been trouble for many people. Perhaps it is time someone stood against him." Aaron tapped the paper in front of him. "We have been discussing options. The way I see it, you have three choices. 1, you could leave California entirely, start over somewhere new. 2, you could go to the law and tell them what you heard. 3, you could stay here and we could find a way to expose your father for what he is." Lena considered each option. Leaving California would mean running forever. He would not stop looking for me. And going to the law would be my word against his. You said yourself he has influence. She met Aaron's eyes. "What did you have in mind for the third option?" A slow smile crossed Aaron's face. "Your father tried to cheat my family out of this ranch. He failed because we had documentation proving the loan never existed. But there have been others who were not so lucky. If we could find them, gather their stories and their proof, we might be able to build a case strong enough that even your father's influence could not save him. That could take weeks, months even. Then you will stay here while we do it." Aaron leaned back in his chair, his expression serious. "I meant what I said last night. You are safe here. And if helping you means finally bringing Marcus Thompson to justice, then that is work worth doing." Lena felt something warm unfurl in her chest, something that had been cold and closed for so long she had forgotten what hope felt like. "I will help however I can. I know some of his business dealings. I used to manage his household ledgers before he decided I was too incompetent even for that." "Then we have a place to start." Aaron pushed the paper toward her. "Write down everything you remember, names, dates, amounts, anything that might help us find the people he has wronged." For the next several hours, Lena worked at the kitchen table, dredging up memories of her father's business dealings. She remembered the families who had come to the house, desperate and pleading, saying they never took the loans Marcus claimed they had. She remembered the signatures she had witnessed, the documents she had filed away. At the time, she had believed her father's explanations. People were forgetful. The poor were often dishonest. He was simply protecting what was his. Now, seeing it all written down, the pattern was undeniable. Aaron watched her work, occasionally asking questions or adding his own notes. As the morning stretched into afternoon, Mrs. Chen brought food, and they ate while continuing their planning. Lena found herself relaxing into the rhythm of the household, the quiet efficiency of people who worked hard and treated each other with respect. "You are good at this," Aaron said, studying the pages of notes Lena had produced. "Organizing information, seeing patterns." "My mother taught me," Lena said. She managed the household accounts and always said a sharp mind was worth more than a pretty face. She smiled sadly. My father hated that she encouraged me to think. He said it made me unmarriageable. Then the men around here are fools. Aaron spoke matter-of-factly, without flattery or false charm. Intelligence is worth more than gold, especially in a place like this. Lena felt heat rise in her cheeks. My father would disagree. Your father is wrong about many things. Aaron gathered the papers and stood. I need to check on the cattle, but I will be back before dinner. Mrs. Chen will be in the garden if you need anything. After he left, Lena wandered through the house, taking in the details she had missed the night before. It was clearly a bachelor's home, lacking the feminine touches her mother had always insisted upon, but it was clean and well-maintained. Books lined a shelf in the sitting room, novels and agricultural journals, and even some poetry. A chess set sat on a side table, mid-game, as if Aaron and Mr. Chen had been playing before she arrived. She found herself drawn to the window, watching Aaron work with the horses in the corral. He moved with practiced ease, his voice low and soothing as he worked with a young mare that seemed skittish. There was patience in every movement, a gentleness that contrasted with his capable strength. Lena thought about the men her father had tried to match her with, pompous merchants and aging ranchers who saw her as a commodity to be acquired. Not one of them had ever looked at her with anything resembling respect, let alone the quiet regard Aaron had shown her from the moment they met. He is a good man, Mrs. Chen said, making Lena jump. The older woman had entered the room silently, a basket of vegetables on her hip. Like his father before him, lost both his parents to fever 3 years ago, has been running this ranch alone ever since with help from us. I am sorry, Lena said. That must have been difficult, he survived. We all survive one way or another. Mrs. Chen set the basket down and fixed Lena with a knowing look. But surviving is not the same as living. Perhaps you both need to remember that. Before Lena could respond, the sound of hoofbeats drew their attention to the window. 3 riders were approaching the house, and Lena's blood ran cold as she recognized the man in the lead. It was the gunman, the one her father had hired. Aaron, she shouted, her voice high with panic. Aaron looked up from the corral, saw the riders, and immediately started toward the house. By the time he reached the porch, Lena was already there, her hands gripping the doorframe. That is him, she said urgently. The man my father hired. Aaron's expression hardened. Get inside. Stay away from the windows. What are you going to do? Talk to them. Just talk. He met her eyes and his voice softened. Trust me. Lena retreated into the house but stayed close enough to hear. Through the window, she watched Aaron step off the porch to meet the riders, his stance relaxed but ready. Help you gentlemen with something, Aaron called out. The gunman was a lean man with a face like weathered leather and eyes that showed no emotion. Looking for someone. Young woman about 20 years old, dark hair, might have come this way. Her father is real worried about her. That's so, says she is not well, not thinking straight. He wants to make sure she gets home safe. The gunman shifted in his saddle and Lena saw the gun at his hip. You seen anyone like that? Might have. Aaron crossed his arms. What business is it of yours? Mr. Thompson hired me to find his daughter. Simple as that. Mr. Thompson, the banker from Julian, heard some interesting things about him lately. Aaron's voice was conversational, but there was steel underneath. Heard he has been foreclosing on people who never took loans. Heard he has been cheating honest folks out of their land. The gunman's eyes narrowed. Those are serious accusations. They are. Almost as serious as hiring someone to kill your own daughter. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. The 2 riders behind the gunman exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable. The gunman himself went very still. "I do not know what you think you know," he said slowly, "but Mr. Thompson is a respected man. You would be wise not to spread lies about him. And you would be wise to head back to Julian and tell Marcus Thompson that his daughter is not here. Even if she was, I would not hand over a frightened woman to a man who wants her dead. You are making a mistake. Maybe." Aaron's hand moved casually to rest on his own gun. "But it is my mistake to make. Now you are on my land without permission. I am asking you nicely to leave." For a long moment nobody moved. Lena held her breath, certain violence was about to erupt. Then the gunman smiled, a cold expression that held no humor. "We will be going. But this is not over. Mr. Thompson is not a man you want as an enemy, neither am I." The gunman wheeled his horse around, his companions following. They galloped back toward the road, leaving a cloud of dust in their wake. Aaron stood watching until they disappeared from sight, then turned back to the house. Lena met him at the door. "They will come back. Probably." Aaron moved past her into the house, checking the rifles mounted on the wall. "But not today. Today they are going back to report to your father, and he will need to decide his next move. This is my fault. I should leave. I should not bring this danger to you." Aaron turned to face her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Listen to me carefully, Lena. You did not bring this danger. Your father did. You did nothing wrong except have the misfortune of being born to a cruel man." He moved closer, and she could smell the honest scent of sun and horses on him. "I made you a promise last night. I do not break my promises. You barely know me. Why would you risk so much for a stranger? Because you are not a stranger anymore." His voice was quiet, almost rough. "Because helping you is the right thing to do. And maybe because I am tired of watching good people suffer while men like your father thrive." Lena felt something shift inside her, some long-held wall beginning to crack. She had spent her entire life being told she was not enough, not pretty enough, not docile enough, not valuable enough. But when Aaron looked at her, she did not see disappointment or calculation. She saw something else entirely, something that made her feel like perhaps she had always been enough, and everyone else had simply been looking at her wrong. "Thank you," she whispered. Aaron reached out and gently touched her shoulder, the same gesture he had made the night before, but somehow it felt different now. "We will figure this out, together." The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Lena helped Mrs. Chen with the household work, insisting on earning her keep despite both the Chens telling her it was not necessary. She cooked and cleaned and tended the garden, finding peace in the simple, honest work. In the evenings, she and Aaron would sit at the kitchen table, going over the information she had provided, making plans for how to approach the people her father had cheated. Aaron proved to be an excellent strategist, methodical and patient. He sent letters to contacts in other towns, quietly asking questions, gathering information. Slowly, a picture emerged of Marcus Thompson's activities, a pattern of fraud and theft stretching back years, touching dozens of families across the region. "We will need to be careful about how we approach these people," Aaron said one evening, tapping his pencil against the table. "Your father has made them afraid. They will not want to speak out unless they believe they will be protected." "What if we could guarantee protection?" Lena asked. "What if we could get the territorial marshal involved?" Aaron looked up, interest sparking in his eyes. "The marshal is based in San Diego. That is a long way to go, and we would need solid evidence before he would agree to investigate. Then we gather that evidence first." Lena felt a surge of determination. "We find the people my father has wronged, we collect their stories and any documentation they have, and we present it as a complete case. That could take months. Then it takes months." Lena met his eyes across the table. I am not going anywhere. Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went deeper than words. Aaron smiled, and it transformed his entire face, making him look younger and somehow more alive. All right, then. We will build our case. As spring turned toward summer, Lena found herself settling into life on the Quinn ranch in ways she had never anticipated. She learned to ride properly, not the sedate side saddle trot her father had deemed appropriate for ladies, but real riding, astride and fast across the open land. Aaron taught her, patient and encouraging, never making her feel foolish for her mistakes. "You are a natural," he said one afternoon, after she had successfully guided her horse through a narrow trail in the hills. "You just needed someone to trust you enough to learn." They rode together often, sometimes to visit the families on Aaron's list, sometimes just to escape the confines of the ranch. Lena discovered that she loved the California mountains, the way the sun turned the grass gold and the wind carried the scent of sage and wildflowers. She loved the vast sky and the sense of possibility that came with each new horizon. More than that, she found herself drawn to Aaron in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. He was everything her father had told her did not exist: a man who valued her mind as much as her company, who treated her as an equal rather than a possession. He made her laugh with dry observations about ranch life, and he listened intently when she shared her thoughts and opinions, never dismissing them as foolish or inappropriate. One warm evening in late June, they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains, the day's work done and dinner finished. Mrs. Chen had gone home to her cottage, and the ranch was peaceful around them. "I have been thinking," Aaron said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Should I be worried?" he smiled. "Maybe. I have been thinking that we are getting close. We have statements from 12 families now, all with proof of your father's fraud. That is enough to take to the marshal." Lena felt her stomach tighten. "That means going to San Diego." "Yes." "It is a week's ride, maybe more. We would need to leave soon if we want to get back before harvest season." Aaron turned to look at her, and in the golden light of the setting sun, his eyes seemed almost amber. "Did you think I would send you alone, or worse, make you stay here while I went?" "I do not want to be a burden, Lena." He said her name like it meant something, like it was important. "You have never been a burden, not once. You have worked harder than any ranch hand I have ever hired, and you have done it without complaint. More than that, you have made this place feel less empty." He paused, seeming to gather his courage. "You have made me feel less empty." Lena's heart was suddenly beating very fast. "Aaron, I know this is not the time," he said quickly. "I know you are dealing with more than enough already, and the last thing you need is me complicating things further. But I need you to know that when this is over, when your father is brought to justice, and you are free to make your own choices, I hope you will choose to stay. Not as a guest or someone hiding from trouble, but as someone who wants to be here. With me." The words hung between them, weighted with possibility. Lena felt tears prick her eyes, but for the first time in longer than she could remember, they were not tears of sadness or fear. "You make me feel like I am enough," she whispered. "Like I have always been enough and I just did not know it." Aaron reached over and took her hand, his calloused palm warm against hers. "You are more than enough. You always have been." They sat like that as the sun sank below the mountains and the first stars emerged, hands clasped, not needing words to fill the space between them. For Lena, it felt like coming home to a place she had never known existed, a place where she could be exactly who she was without apology or pretense. The next morning, they began preparations for the journey to San Diego. Aaron organized supplies while Lena carefully packed all the documentation they had gathered. Mrs. Chen fussed over them both, making sure they had enough food and warm clothes for the nights that could turn cold even in summer. "You will be careful," she said, not quite making it a question. "We will," Aaron promised. "Mr. Chen knows what to do while I am gone. The ranch will be fine." "I am not worried about the ranch." Mrs. Chen looked pointedly at Lena. "I am worried about the people." The journey to San Diego was unlike anything Lena had ever experienced. They traveled through mountain passes and across high desert, camping under the stars at night. Aaron taught her how to build a proper campfire, how to cook over open flames, how to read the land for water and shelter. He treated her like a partner, not a delicate flower that needed constant protection. On the third night, after they had eaten and were sitting by the fire, Lena asked the question that had been on her mind since they left. "Why did my father become the way he is? Was he always cruel, or did something change him?" Aaron poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky. "I only knew of him in recent years, after your mother died, but Mr. Chen has lived in this area longer than most. He says your father was different once before the gambling debts." "Gambling debts? He never told you." Aaron looked at her, surprise evident on his face. "Marcus Thompson lost a fortune gambling in San Francisco about 6 years ago, nearly bankrupted himself. That is when he started the scheme with the false loans. He needed money desperately and was not particular about how he got it." Lena absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the father she remembered. "My mother never said anything. She probably tried to protect you, and him." Aaron set aside his stick and turned to face her fully. "But his choices are not your responsibility, Lena. Whatever drove him to do the things he did, that is his burden, not yours. I know, but I still wish things had been different. I wish I had had a father who loved me instead of resented me." "His inability to love you is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of his character." Aaron moved closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him in the cool night air. "Anyone who cannot see how remarkable you are is a fool." Lena felt her breath catch. The firelight played across Aaron's features, highlighting the strong line of his jaw, the intensity of his gaze. She saw in his eyes what she had been afraid to acknowledge, not just respect or kindness, but something deeper, something that called to the lonely parts of her soul. "I spent so long believing I was not enough," she said softly. "Not for my father, not for any man. I thought there was something fundamentally wrong with me." "There is nothing wrong with you." Aaron's voice was fierce. "You are brave and intelligent and kind. You are capable and strong and beautiful in ways that have nothing to do with appearance. You are everything any reasonable man could want. And are you a reasonable man?" A slow smile crossed his face. "Not when it comes to you." He kissed her then, gentle and questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Lena did not want to pull away. She wanted to lean into the warmth and safety he offered, wanted to let herself feel the things she had spent years suppressing. She kissed him back, pouring years of loneliness and longing into the contact, feeling something tight and painful in her chest finally begin to unwind. When they separated, both breathing hard, Aaron rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that since the day you tried to steal a horse from Julian's stable." Lena laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. "That is a terrible moment to fall for someone, maybe, but you were so fierce, so determined to save yourself. I think that was when I knew you were different from anyone I had ever met." They sat close together by the fire, talking late into the night about everything and nothing. Aaron told her about growing up on the ranch, about the dreams his parents had for the land, and how he was working to fulfill them. Lena talked about her mother, about the brief happy years before illness stole her away. They shared stories and secrets, weaving their pasts together like threads in a tapestry. When they finally slept, it was on opposite sides of the fire, propriety maintained even in the wilderness. But as Lena drifted off, wrapped in her bedroll under the vast canopy of stars, she felt something she had not felt in years: genuine hope for the future. They reached San Diego on a warm afternoon, the city sprawling and vibrant compared to the quiet mining towns Lena was accustomed to. The smell of the ocean was strange and wonderful, salt and fish and possibility mingling in the air. Aaron navigated the streets with confidence, clearly having been here before, and led them to a modest building that served as the territorial marshal's office. Marshal James Garrett was a man in his 50s with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. He listened as Aaron explained the situation, his expression growing progressively darker as the full scope of Marcus Thompson's activities became clear. "These are serious accusations," he said when Aaron finished. "I will need to verify the documents, speak to some of these families myself." "Of course," Lena said, speaking up for the first time. "I understand you cannot simply take our word for it. But I swear to you, every statement we have gathered is true. My father has been stealing from people for years, and I have the knowledge of his household accounts to verify many of the discrepancies." Garrett studied her for a long moment. "You are Marcus Thompson's daughter?" "I am. And I know how it looks, a daughter speaking against her father. But I heard him order my death, Marshal. I would not be here if I did not believe he needed to be stopped." Something in her voice or her bearing must have convinced him, because Garrett nodded slowly. "All right. Leave the documents with me. I will need a few days to investigate, but if everything you have told me is accurate, I will ride to Julian myself to make an arrest." "How long?" Aaron asked. "A week, maybe 2. I will send word to the Quinn ranch when I have made my decision." They left the marshal's office with a mixture of relief and anxiety. They had done everything they could. Now it was in the hands of the law. Aaron found them a respectable boarding house with rooms for rent, making sure Lena had her own space and that the proprietress was trustworthy. "We should stay in San Diego until we hear from the marshal," Aaron said. "I do not want to be halfway back to Julian when he needs us for testimony or additional information." Lena agreed, though the thought of spending extended time in the city made her nervous. She had grown accustomed to the open spaces of the ranch, the quiet rhythm of days marked by honest work and starlit evenings. San Diego felt crowded and loud, full of strangers and uncertainty, but it also offered something unexpected: freedom. For the first time in her life, Lena could walk through streets where nobody knew her father, where she was not the disappointing daughter of Marcus Thompson, but simply herself. She and Aaron explored the city together, visiting the market and watching ships come and go from the harbor. They ate at small cafes and walked along the waterfront, talking and laughing like a proper courting couple. On their 5th evening in San Diego, Aaron took her to a small restaurant overlooking the bay. The sun was setting, painting the water in shades of gold and rose, and Lena felt a contentment she had never imagined possible. "Whatever happens with the marshal," Aaron said, reaching across the table to take her hand, "I want you to know something. I love you, Lena. I think I started falling for you that first night in the stable, and every day since has only made it stronger." Lena felt tears gather in her eyes. "I love you too. I did not think I could after everything. I did not think I was capable of trusting someone enough to love them. But you showed me what it should feel like: respect and partnership and genuine affection. You showed me I was worth more than I believed." "You are worth everything," Aaron said fiercely. "And when this is over, when your father can never hurt you again, I want to marry you. I want you to be my wife, not because I need someone to keep my house or bear my children, but because I cannot imagine my life without you in it." "Yes," Lena whispered, not needing time to think about it. "Yes, I will marry you." Aaron stood and moved around the table, pulling her to her feet and kissing her right there in the restaurant, not caring who saw or what they thought. Lena kissed him back, feeling joy bubble up inside her like champagne, bright and effervescent. The word from Marshal Garrett came 8 days later. He had verified the documents, spoken to 6 of the families personally, and found enough evidence to not only arrest Marcus Thompson, but to seize his assets pending a full investigation. He was writing to Julian immediately and requested that both Aaron and Lena return to provide formal testimony. They made the journey back to Julian in 5 days, pushing hard to arrive in time. The town was in an uproar when they rode in, news of Marcus Thompson's arrest having spread like wildfire. People stared as Lena passed, some with sympathy, others with the avid curiosity of those who thrived on scandal. The trial was held in the largest building in Julian, the Odd Fellows Hall, which was packed to capacity with townspeople wanting to witness the fall of their former banker. Marcus Thompson sat at the defendant's table, his face haggard and furious, barely contained rage simmering in his eyes when he looked at his daughter. Lena took the stand with her head held high, wearing a simple but respectable dress that Mrs. Chen had helped her make. She testified about what she had heard, about the documents she had seen, about the years of manipulation and fraud. Her voice never wavered, not even when her father's lawyer tried to discredit her as a hysterical woman prone to flights of fancy. "My daughter has always been prone to dramatics," Marcus Thompson claimed when he took the stand. "She has a vivid imagination and a tendency to embroider the truth. This is clearly an attempt to punish me for being a strict father." But the evidence was overwhelming. Family after family testified about loans they never took, documents they never signed, homes they lost to a man who had no legal right to them. The gunman, facing his own charges, turned on Thompson and admitted to being hired to kill Lena, though he claimed he never intended to go through with it. The verdict came after 2 days of testimony, guilty on 17 counts of fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. Marcus Thompson was sentenced to 20 years in prison, his assets seized to provide restitution to his victims. He would never be a free man again. Lena watched as the guards led her father away, his face twisted with hatred as he looked at her one last time. She felt Aaron's hand slip into hers, solid and reassuring, and she turned away from the man who had tried to destroy her. "It is over," Aaron said quietly. "Yes," Lena agreed. "It is over." They married 3 weeks later in the small church in Julian, with half the town in attendance. Many of the families her father had wronged came to the wedding, grateful to the couple who had helped bring them justice. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, while Mr. Chen smiled and nodded his approval. Lena wore her mother's wedding dress, which she had retrieved from her father's house, along with the few possessions she wanted to keep. As she walked down the aisle toward Aaron, she thought about how far she had come from that terrified girl fleeing through the streets. She was not that girl anymore. She was stronger, braver, more certain of her worth. Aaron looked at her like she was the most precious thing he had ever seen, and when he took her hands and spoke his vows, his voice was thick with emotion. "I promise to love you and respect you all my days," he said. "I promise to be your partner in all things, to value your mind and your heart equally. I promise to show you every day that you are more than enough, you are everything." Lena spoke her own vows through happy tears, promising to build a life together, to face whatever challenges came with courage and honesty. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Aaron kissed her with a tenderness that made her believe in new beginnings. The years that followed were not without hardship. Ranching was hard work, and the California mountains could be unforgiving, but they were good years, full of love and laughter. Lena proved to be an excellent ranch manager, her organizational skills and head for numbers helping the Quinn Ranch thrive. She and Aaron expanded the operation, buying adjacent land and building up their herds. Their first child came in the spring of 1880, a healthy boy they named Thomas, after Aaron's father. Lena proved to be a capable mother, though she was determined that her children would grow up differently than she had. She taught Thomas to read before he was 4, encouraged his curiosity, and never made him feel less than for any reason. A daughter followed 2 years later, Emily, with her father's dark hair and her mother's sharp mind. Then another son, William, who had a gift with horses that showed itself almost from birth. The house that had seemed so empty when Lena first arrived filled with noise and life and love. Mrs. Chen remained with them through all of it, becoming grandmother to their children in all but name. She taught Lena the art of Chinese cooking and passed down stories of her own journey to California decades before. Mr. Chen trained the boys in ranching, patient and thorough, ensuring the next generation would know how to care for the land. Sometimes, late at night when the children were asleep and the ranch was quiet, Lena and Aaron would sit on the porch as they had that first evening when he confessed his feelings. They would hold hands and watch the stars, talking about their day, their dreams, their plans for the future. "Do you ever regret it?" Aaron asked one such night, 5 years into their marriage. "Leaving your old life behind, you could have had comfort and society in Julian." "I had nothing in Julian except a father who saw me as a burden," Lena said. "Here, I have everything that matters: a partner who values me, children who know they are loved, work that fulfills me. Why would I regret that? Some women might feel isolated out here, miss the social life." Lena laughed. "The only society I need is right here. Besides, I have more friends now than I ever did in town. Real friends who like me for who I am, not what my father could do for them." It was true. Over the years, Lena had formed deep friendships with the other ranch wives in the area, women who shared her love of the land and understood the particular challenges of frontier life. They helped each other through difficult times, births and illnesses, droughts and harsh winters, creating a community built on mutual respect and support. In 1885, Lena received word that her father had died in prison, weakened by illness and age. She felt a complicated mix of emotions: relief that he could never threaten her again, sadness for what might have been if he had been a different man, and ultimately, a sense of closure. She mourned not the man he was, but the father he should have been. Aaron held her that night, letting her cry out years of complicated feelings. "You deserved better," he told her, "but you built something beautiful anyway. That is the measure of your strength." As the children grew, Lena made sure they understood their family history, not to burden them with shame, but to teach them important lessons about character and choices. Thomas, serious and thoughtful like his mother, became fascinated with the law and eventually went to study in Sacramento, determined to help protect people from men like his grandfather. Emily developed a passion for teaching and opened a school on the ranch, educating not just her own siblings but children from surrounding farms. William stayed close to home, working the ranch alongside his father and proving himself to be a natural leader. The Quinn Ranch prospered, becoming one of the most successful operations in San Diego County. But more importantly, it became a home filled with love and laughter, a place where people were valued for who they were rather than what they could provide. Lena never forgot where she came from or how close she had come to a very different fate. She used her position to help other women in difficult situations, providing employment and shelter to those fleeing bad marriages or dangerous family situations. The spare room that had once been her sanctuary became a way station for women who needed safety and a chance to rebuild their lives. "You are doing what someone once did for you," Aaron said, watching Lena help a young woman from town settle into the guest room one evening. "Paying it forward," Lena agreed. "You showed me that I was worth more than I believed. The least I can do is show others the same." On their 10th anniversary, Aaron took Lena back to the spot where he had proposed in San Diego. They left the children with Mrs. Chen and made the journey together, retracing the steps of that first trip when everything had still been uncertain. Standing on the bluff overlooking the bay, Aaron pulled her close. 10 years, he marveled. It feels like yesterday and forever all at once. "Best 10 years of my life," Lena said, leaning into his warmth. "Though I admit the sleepless nights with 3 children tested that on occasion." Aaron laughed, the sound rich and happy. "Fair enough, but would you change anything, not a single moment?" Lena turned in his arms to face him. "You gave me something I never thought I could have, a life where I am valued for exactly who I am. You showed me what real love looks like, what partnership means. You made me believe I was enough when everyone else said I was not." "You were always enough," Aaron said, cupping her face in his hands. "I just helped you see what was already there." They kissed as the sun set over the Pacific, 2 people who had found in each other everything they needed. The scared girl fleeing through Julian and the rancher who had offered her sanctuary were different people now, shaped by years of love and hard work and mutual respect. But the core of what had drawn them together remained unchanged: the recognition that they were better together than apart, that they made each other stronger and braver and more complete. As they traveled back to the ranch, Lena thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. Her father had told her she would never be enough, that she was fundamentally lacking in all the ways that mattered. He had been wrong. She had always been enough, strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough. She just needed someone who could see it, someone who would stand beside her rather than try to diminish her. Aaron had been that someone. He had offered her safety when she needed it most, then shown her that she was capable of so much more than surviving. He had loved her not in spite of her strength and intelligence, but because of it. He had made her his partner in the truest sense, valuing her opinions and trusting her judgment. With him, she had built a life richer and fuller than anything she could have imagined in her father's house. The ranch came into view as they crested the final hill, lights glowing warm in the gathering dusk. Lena could see her children playing in the yard, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. Mrs. Chen was on the porch, probably calling them in for dinner. Mr. Chen was closing up the barn for the night. Everything was exactly as it should be. "Ready to go home?" Aaron asked, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "More than ready," Lena replied. "Let us go home." They rode down the hill together, toward the house that had become her haven, toward the family that had become her joy, toward the life she had built from ashes and determination. Behind her lay the girl who had believed she was not enough. Ahead lay a woman who knew her worth, who had claimed her place in the world, who had found love in the most unexpected of places. The years continued to unfold with their mixture of challenges and triumphs. The ranch saw good years and hard years, times of plenty and seasons of drought. Through it all, Lena and Aaron worked side by side, their partnership growing deeper with each passing year. They learned each other's rhythms, anticipated each other's needs, became 2 halves of a remarkably efficient whole. Thomas graduated from law school in 1895. returning to San Diego County to open a practice dedicated to protecting farmers and ranchers from unscrupulous businessmen. He often said his mother's story had inspired his career path, wanting to ensure that others had legal protection from men like his grandfather. Emily's school grew to serve more than 30 children, her patience and innovative teaching methods earning her a reputation throughout the region. William married a neighboring rancher's daughter, a spirited young woman named Sarah, and they built a house on the northern section of the Quinn land, expanding the family operation. Lena watched her children build their own lives with pride and satisfaction. They had grown into good people, grounded and hardworking, with strong moral compasses and generous hearts. They knew the value of honesty and integrity because they had been raised in a home where those qualities mattered more than wealth or status. As Lena entered her 50s, her hair beginning to show threads of silver, she sometimes allowed herself to wonder what her life might have looked like if she had not run that day, if she had stayed in Julian and met whatever fate her father had planned. The thought made her shudder. She would have been dead or broken, her spirit crushed under the weight of expectations she could never meet. Instead, she had built something beautiful. She had a husband who still looked at her with love and desire, who still held her hand and made her laugh, who still treated her as an equal partner in every decision. She had children and grandchildren who surrounded her with affection. She had a home that was truly hers, in all the ways that mattered. One summer evening in 1898, 20 years after that desperate flight from Julian, Lena sat on the porch with Aaron watching their grandchildren play in the yard. Thomas's 2 boys were teaching William's daughter how to rope fence posts, the 3 of them laughing at their failed attempts. Inside, Emily was helping Mrs. Chen prepare dinner, her clear voice singing a melody her grandmother had taught her. "You remember that first night?" Lena asked, leaning her head on Aaron's shoulder. "When you found me trying to steal a horse, how could I forget? You looked terrified and determined all at once. I knew right then you were someone special. I thought you were going to turn me over to my father. Never crossed my mind." Aaron kissed the top of her head. "Best decision I ever made bringing you home. Best decision I ever made trusting you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the day fade into twilight, the mountains turning purple in the distance. Lena thought about all the years between that frightened girl and this contented woman, all the moments of fear and courage, all the small victories that had added up to a life well lived. She had been told she would never be enough, not pretty enough, not docile enough, not valuable enough. Her father had looked at her and seen only failure, a daughter who could not even manage the one thing women were supposedly good for, marrying well and producing social advantage. But Aaron had looked at her and seen something entirely different. He had seen intelligence and courage. He had seen capability and strength. He had seen a partner, an equal, someone worth fighting for and building a life with. He had shown her that she was more than enough, that she had always been everything she needed to be. The truth was, Lena had not needed Aaron to make her valuable. Her worth had always been intrinsic, part of who she was at her core. What Aaron had given her was the space and safety to recognize that worth for herself, to stop measuring herself against impossible standards and start embracing her own strengths. He had not saved her, she had saved herself by running, by refusing to accept her father's verdict on her life. But Aaron had given her a soft place to land, a partnership that allowed her to flourish, and love that asked nothing except that she be exactly who she was. As the stars emerged overhead and the children were called inside for dinner, Lena squeezed Aaron's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what? For seeing me. Really seeing me when everyone else looked right through me." Aaron turned to face her, his whiskey-colored eyes still as intense as they had been that first night. "Thank you for letting me. Thank you for being brave enough to run, to fight, to build this life with me. You made me better, Lena. You made everything better." They went inside together, into the warmth and noise of their family, into the life they had built from nothing but courage and love and mutual respect. The house smelled of Mrs. Chen's cooking, rich and savory. The children's laughter echoed off the walls. Aaron's hand stayed warm in hers, an anchor and a promise. Lena Thompson Quinn had been told she would never be enough, but she had proven them wrong in every way that mattered. She was enough, more than enough. She was loved and valued and respected. She had built a legacy that would outlast her, raised children who knew their worth, created a home where people could be themselves without fear or shame. And on that warm summer evening, surrounded by the family she had built and the man who had shown her what real love looked like, Lena finally understood the truth. She had always been enough. She just needed the right person to help her see it. The years continued their steady march. Lena and Aaron aged together, their love maturing like fine wine, deeper and richer with time. They celebrated their silver anniversary surrounded by children and grandchildren, the ranch house overflowing with family. They weathered the turn of the century together, marveling at how much the world had changed since that long-ago night when a frightened girl had tried to steal a horse. Mrs. Chen passed peacefully in her sleep in 1905, at the age of 82. They buried her on a hillside overlooking the ranch she had helped build, under an oak tree she had loved. Mr. Chen followed 2 years later, finally rejoining his wife. Lena mourned them deeply, these people who had become her family in all the ways that mattered. But life continued, as it always did. Thomas became a judge, his reputation for fairness and integrity earning him respect throughout California. Emily's school produced dozens of well-educated young people who went on to build successful lives of their own. William and Sarah expanded the ranch further, their 4 children ensuring the Quinn legacy would continue for generations. On a cool autumn evening in 1910, Aaron and Lena sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. They were both in their mid-60s now, their bodies bearing the marks of hard work and good years. But they still held hands, still found comfort in each other's presence, still chose each other every single day. No regrets. Aaron asked, the same question he had posed countless times over the years. "Not a single one," Lena replied, the same answer she always gave. "You. Only that I did not find you sooner." Aaron smiled, that slow, warm smile that still made her heart flutter. "But I will take the years we had and count myself blessed." "Blessed," Lena repeated, trying the word on for size. "Yes, I think that is the right word. Against all odds, despite everything, we were blessed." They watched the sun sink below the mountains, the sky turning from gold to rose to purple. The ranch was quiet around them, the work of the day done, the evening settling in like a comfortable blanket. In the distance, they could hear William calling his children in for dinner, the everyday sounds of life continuing its eternal rhythm. Lena thought about the girl she had been, so certain of her inadequacy, so convinced that she was fundamentally flawed. She wished she could go back and tell that girl what waited ahead, not to ease her suffering, which had been necessary for her growth, but simply to let her know that she would survive. More than survive. She would thrive. "Thank you," Lena said again, because some things bore repeating. "For everything. For taking a chance on a desperate girl who tried to steal a horse, for showing me what I was worth, for building this life with me." "The pleasure," Aaron said, raising her hand to his lips, "was entirely mine." As darkness fell and the stars emerged, they went inside together, into the warmth of the home they had built, into the life they had created through love and stubbornness, and unwavering commitment to each other. The story that had begun with a bullet and a desperate flight had transformed into something beautiful, a testament to the power of seeing someone for who they truly are and loving them not despite their strength, but because of it. Lena Thompson had been told she would never be enough. Aaron Quinn had shown her she was more than enough. But the real truth, the one Lena had learned over 3 decades of love and partnership, was that she had always been exactly what she needed to be. She just needed someone who could see it, someone who would stand beside her as she claimed her worth and built a life worthy of it. In Aaron, she had found that person, and in finding him, she had found herself.